and Tech Sergeant Clohesi, who is our residential DEAMS expert. He'll actually be walking you through a demo where we'll actually certify a couple of documents here at Scott, so you can kind of see how the system plays out. The best thing is to embrace the change and go through the ample training materials that DEAMS provides, to include the training sandbox, where you can actually practice on dummy documents to get familiar with it. The hows and whys of what we do don't change. Those will always be the same. It's just how we get from A to B is going to be a little bit different, and in most cases a little bit faster. So with that, we'll get started. A little bit about DEAMS. It's a standard slide straight off their website. Defense Enterprise Accounting and Management System. Basically, this is designed to automate a lot of our processes, get us more into the 21st century, and to increase our fire compliance, which is what we're aiming for. Some advantages of this system: it's all in one. It is your BQ, it is your ABSS, it is your CRIS, along with a host of others. It's all in one. The good news is, if you have a CAC card or a CAC reader, you can work from home, which is another nice feature. We've actually had to use that here a couple times during snowstorms and floods and emergencies. We didn't have to bring whole crews of people in. Some of them live 30 or so minutes away. They can actually just sit down in their pink bunny slippers and pajamas and log in at home and push the documents and get everything taken care of that way. And that works for the resource advisors and the budget office as well. It does reduce your training time a little bit. I know when we all grew up, if you've been around a while, you had to learn the Voodoo short code for working in BQ. You don't have to worry about that. DEAMS is all drop-down menus. So your new folks will pick it up a lot faster because they don't have to learn the shorthand code to operate. Now, there's a little bit of a warning there. It's drop-down menus, and you'll be able to see everybody in the Air Force. Please pick correctly. I don't like my funds being tied up on somebody else's documents, so please choose correctly when you go. And it does improve our auditability. Your documentation, everything is contained within there. It does have some limitations on how you move stuff around doing JVs and whatnot, which will, again, have a plan, stick to your plan. But if you leave the plane, it's going to be difficult for you. Some of your disadvantage, it's a single point system. If DEAMS goes down for the day, you have no way to push a document to contracting unless you go really old school and actually type it up, print it out, hand sign it, and walk it over. System downtime, like I said, means no work. There's no way to do your status of funds. There's no way to do a BQ and all that. Again, it's not as flexible to changes as I kind of alluded to earlier. You just really have to understand that going in so you know it. And it's still a maturing system. We're still working on the reporting tools, lining in some other second and third order effects of things that weren't thought of originally when we started the process. And again, we're all working on them. System patches and things are in the works. With everything, it does take time. So it is maturing, so bear that in mind. Again, what I can tell you as a tip, embrace the change. Like I said before, how and why are the same. The terms, the flow are just a little bit different. For example, we don't use EECs. We use object classes. And before anyone asks, there is no correlation. 409 is not in the object class for travel. So just embrace that. You're going to have to learn a whole new set of lines. It is what it is. There's also no more TOA. DEAMS operates everything in their lane. So direct funding is direct funding. Reimbursable funding is reimbursable funding. And you can't stack the two together and go bottom line. You have to operate within each of those buckets, which is good for auditability, but it can be a little bit more paperwork intensive if you haven't been doing it that way already. Start your training early. When they announce that their DEAMS is coming to your area, start the training. Have a plan and stick to it. That's probably about the most important thing there. You need a good spend plan. Your units need good spend plans. You need to know how you're going to execute and stick to it. We understand things will change with emergencies, but those should be the exception, not the rule. If you're flying by the seat of your pants, DEAMS is not going to be friendly for you. DEAMS is extremely more fire compliant than Legacy. Post-obligation changes are very paperwork intensive. You cannot do a single JV to move 100 travel orders. You're going to have to move them one at a time, which again gets me back to the have a plan and stick to it. And then just remember, it is a maturing system, as I said before. If you find an issue, bring it up so it can be worked. If you find something that's important and we don't know about it, then it's really hard to get a systems patch in to fix it. Is it just something that's unique to your location, or is this an overall systems thing that we need to work on? Here's the training plan that we've come up with, and this is with the 5 bases that are currently on DEAMS. Basically, we've lined it out. These are the things that we feel what you have to have. DEAMS does an excellent job in providing I think it's an 800-page color illustrated manual on how to do all the different documents and whatnot that you need to do. These are the classes you need to get going to get started, along with follow-up training. And then these are the initial training for the resource advisors that we feel they need, along with follow-on training. In addition to that, I'd recommend some good MS Office, Excel, Access, Word, PowerPoint, etc. As we mature the system, the reporting is going to get better, but you're really going to want to pull those reports out of DEAMS and put them into a more usable, shapeable product like an Excel or an Access, and for presentation purposes, Word for PowerPoint. So a little bit of understanding there is going to help you out a long way. We've already shared this out last week with the folks hosting today, so I believe they've already sent all these training things out. So please don't feel like you have to scramble to write them all down. We'll make sure we get these back out to you again as well. And with that, I will turn it over to Sergeant Clohessy and let him run a demo. Like I said, we have a few things out there to show you, and then afterwards we'll open it up to Q&A. For that, Sergeant Clohessy.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sergeant Clohessy out here at Scott. We're going to go through a basic walkthrough, just a few items that you'll see kind of on a daily basis. There are a few of these items that are more specific in nature depending on what documents you'll be in, so that's why we're just going to kind of show you the ins and outs and the basics of it. I'm going to start out with a report. As you said, the reporting database, they're still doing quite a bit of work on it, but it does have quite a bit of wonderful reporting functionality in it. Bear with me just a second. I had 2 instances of DEAMS open, but it seems like one's disappeared. So I'm going to get back to the reports. Once you come in, here's your home screen. It's pretty self-explanatory. All the items that you'll need access to are down here in your navigator. When you need to go and do a report, you'll click on the DEAMS Discover Reviewer right here. And with the reports, you're always going to need to take a couple extra minutes to let it think and do its thing. Some of these reports do take quite a while. I'm just going to run a brief certifier report just to show you how the process and everything. If you're going to run an ODL or some of these, they do take quite a bit of time. So I'm just going to run a real quick one here. In the open search here, you just search what it is you're looking for. If your FSO guys are needing the voucher balancing report, if you need to double check for, say, EPR numbers and need to check certifiers, whatever it is you're looking for, you can come in here and do most of your reports out of this Discover Reviewer. You'll do a couple of them somewhere else, but like I said, there's some different instances where you may be doing things a bit differently depending on what it is you're looking at. And like I said, there is a bit of lag time with DEAMS from time to time, depending on how much bandwidth you have available at your disposal at any one time. So while this is running, I'm actually going to open up another instance of DEAMS so that we can relatively seamlessly transition once we're done with that one.
While we're waiting for that to come up, that was one of the questions people had: is how friendly is this talking to Chris and Gaff and BQ and all that? It doesn't talk to BQ. It is your BQ. Other than for prior years, you won't be using BQ in the future. Going forward, it does report to GAFSAR, but that's mostly for big Air Force balancing purposes, not for your daily use. And it does talk to Chris, but not as often. One of the good features of it being your BQ is that you won't have any DNO out of balances, and you won't have any CSR management notices because it won't let you spend more money than you have. But again, all of your reports and everything will come out of here, and as you can see, there can be a bit of a delay.
And with that, with the reporting function, the one thing that is phenomenal with it is they're very open to input and adjustment. So you'll find that there are quite a few reports out there, and this one that we're actually running is one that I had them set up because we were looking for a way to quantify what everybody does in the system, and we didn't have any way to capture that as far as 1206s and EPRs. We didn't have a way to quantify everybody's results and what they actually accomplish. So that's why we created this report here. And you can run it on any one of your individuals that's in the system, and it'll essentially let you know what kind of dollar numbers they've been putting out as far as certifications. So I'll just run this one real fast, just on myself to show you the usability of it. Some of these reports, like I said, take a minute. This one is relatively quick. And it says I didn't do anything. Wonderful. And there may be an issue with it, but generally when you pull this report down here on the bottom, it'll give you a summary of exactly what you certified, 448s, 4009s, Form 9s, and it'll give you the exact dollar amount. See if it was getting us on the caps. There we go. It is very case sensitive, so that's what was getting us with the caps. But like I said, down here at the bottom, it shows exactly what your technicians have been up to. So if you need to do daily checks or quarterly checks, however you'd like to do it, there are a lot of reports in here that help you out functionally. Once you're done viewing your report, you can actually come over here. Depending on what it is you're running, you can export it into various formats, like the commander was saying. You can export it into what you need to create the output that you need to create. Generally, I create most of mine into the Microsoft Excel so that we can then filter and tinker with as we need to. And ta-da, it just throws it into Excel for you, and you can filter it, play with it as much as you'd like. And once you get done with reports that actually invalidates that page, then you'll have to open up a new instance of DEAMS because you can't get back to the home screen from there. Once you come in here, generally the home page that a lot of your technicians will see is actually the iProcurement tab. And what this shows is you have two different sections. On the top here, this is all of the requisitions that I have created. You can full list and open that up to see everything. Or my notifications down here at the bottom, those are any requisitions that you have in your queue to effect. So we'll open up the full list just here to bring up everything. Drop this down to just the to-do notifications. And these are all the notifications, these are all the requisitions that are available for us, or for me at my level, to effect. So we'll go ahead and certify one here real quick. And since we are talking to mostly CE crowd, we'll go ahead and take a look at the CE document. So what we've got here, as you can tell, it's an accounting morgue for SIPPay MFH, put in by the CE Resource Advisor. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to edit the requisition so that I can view exactly how this document was put into the system and make sure all the items are correctly input. I'm going to do approve or checkout so I can go into the document. Now what you're looking at is exactly screen by screen how the individual inputs documents. So I'm just going to verify that they have all the required information and that their document passes funds check. The PTEO that you've seen referenced on some of the items are these first 4 blocks right here. That is who it is and what they're buying. So you'll see your OAC and OBAN here, your PEC, and then the expenditure type that he was talking about, the object class, is right here. Formerly known as an EEC, it's now an object class subclass. And then you want to check the funds. Once you verify that all this is good to go and it is accurate, you'll go ahead and click on the charge account. And this is generated by the PTEO. This is actually it's called the SFIS, is the line of accounting. And the PTEO information that's put in generates that SFIS. That's your actual DEAMS line of accounting. So once you click on the charge account, you'll come up here and check funds. And you'll have one of 3 answers on this. It'll either be checked successfully, checked with warnings, or funds check failed. Successful and warnings are both good to go, thumbs up, but fail means you have to reject the document back, you don't have enough money. Warning just means you're getting close. And then once you check that, you click on return, then you'll come up here and click next. And this screen is not required, it's just any notes that the individual, the technician wants to put in. And then this last screen is where you'll check the actual document flow information. You'll ensure that their form type is correct. Once you're inputting the document and you get to screen 3, you'll actually be able to drop it down and it will specify what you need to input by what type of document you've selected. So that helps you out quite a bit when you're inputting the different types of documents because it makes it a little easier for you. You make sure their BPN is correct and then their groups are as they should be. And for planning PR, that's any non-current document. If you're getting ready for closeout in the new fiscal year, all of your documents for the next fiscal year will be a planning document. And you make sure their purpose code is correct. And once you've verified everything, you're going to submit to remove yourself from the editing function and to go into the actual approving and signing. And you verified everything is correct, so you're going to go into digital signature, select I select the non-email certificate, but I believe it works under both. And then you're going to approve it and follow the prompts. And then once you get the green check, you're good to click done, and this will take you back into the document. You approve it, and certification is complete. It's now out of the queue. Once you get up to speed on what you're looking at and a good method for doing it, as long as you're doing the same things every time, you can generally certify or approve a document in a matter of minutes. So it's actually relatively friendly on that one. We'll go ahead and build a quick document. Go ahead and let's do 4009. To do a document, you're going to come back in here to iProcurement, and this is true for any document that you need to input. You'll come up here to non-catalog request, and this is where you'll begin. And these first three screens are all the same, no matter what type of document you're inputting. It's the final screen that starts to change everything. So we'll just do it. Dummy 4009. And this is actually where it starts to get entertaining as you put in documents. The category will take quite a bit of searching, depending on what it is you're putting in, whether it be a chapel resiliency item. You'll have to do quite a bit of searching for whatever it is you're looking for. And this has relatively close to everything in there. So if you're trying to do something for, let's say ammunition, there's every type of ammunition we have available in the military, and we've done a couple searches through here just to see what it may not have, and good luck on that. It has about everything I've ever heard of. The general category that you'll use for 4009's different items will be the 9.99 miscellaneous items. So you'll just drop that in. Quantity will be 1. Unit of measure is going to be each, and this depends on what you're doing the requisition for as well. And contracting will assist you with that quite a bit, depending on if it's going to be one lot, one each. They'll be able to better specify what they may need on a requisition. Unit price, doing a 4009 for $1, it'll be in US dollars, and we're going to add that to cart. Then once you've got it in your cart, you'll view cart and check out. And this is your basic information. You've got your 4009 for $1, and you'll check out. And here's where you input the potato information. Actually, create a potato. Okay.
While you're doing that, you can see that while it's easier, it can be a little more cumbersome, especially for some of our more seasoned users, myself in that category as well. But you can see where the new guys can pick it up really quickly. And once you do it a few times, it really does help to pick it up without much difficulty. Again, the training aids, playing in the sandbox before the DEAMS team actually shows up on site will actually help you in the transitionary process and get you ready to go working with the new Oracle platform.
But one of the issues that you do have to watch on this is, like the commander said earlier, you can see everything in DEAMS. So you have to make sure that you very closely watch what you're doing in here, because it is very easy to obligate to somewhere that you shouldn't be. I know we've had instances in the past where we've had items obligated against us from different areas. So you just got to make sure that as you're training your folks, they are very closely watching what they're doing, because it's easy to get ahead of yourself very quickly. And then once you've got your potato, let me use that organization.
unlike in the legacy system, if you do make a mistake, it will let you know about it and not push the document through. Unlike some of the legacies where you can just force gump your way along and inadvertently tag a line or someone else's account.
Unexpected error. And it dumped all the bogus information that we were using out.
As you can see, it moves along. We'll go ahead and have him stop right now so we got plenty of time for Q&A because I can see all the little things popping up on the side here. Going forward, again, I cannot tell you anything about implementation strategy, SAF FM moves as far as further expansion or anything like that, but we can tell you from a user's perspective, and like I said before at the beginning, we are the longest users in the Air Force on DEAMS. We are a very large base, so we see more of the complex transactions that some of your smaller bases may or may not see going forward. So with that, I guess we'll open up the floor to questions.
Sir, we have questions coming in through the chat box. Are you able to monitor that?
Yeah, just scrolling back up here at the top. There's quite a few of them. Had to bring it back up. Okay. Does the quantity dollar amount for 4009 price need to be 1 and the unit of measure US? Does it have to be US dollars? Yes and yes if you're working in the US on that. Yes, it's a good point. If you're too broad on your parameters, the reports will take a little bit longer to do. How long does it take DFAS to process a JV or a 1081? Up to 30 days from my chief accountant. Sometimes faster, sometimes not. DEAMS does interface with Chris, but bear in mind that it's not getting its feeds as often. And the subsystems like DTS, the supply system, etc., aren't feeding in as often either. So you will have a disconnect that's come off. We've been working with some automated tools folks. It's there, but it's a lot better than it used to be, and it'll still continue to get better as they move along. Yeah, my buddy Joshua said you're better off using status of funds through the DEAMS system instead of Chris. Just bear in mind that Chris is your BQ, so just like at end of year, you're going to go and look at BQ if you're on the FM side. You're going to go into BQ, you're going to see what your status of funds is live out of there. DEAMS is your BQ, so when you run the report, you're getting it real time from them. Here's one. I'm a contracting officer. I would like to approve funding. Or how do I approve funding? You're going to go through, you'll have DEAMS access just like you would with ABSS, and it works exactly the same. You're going to go in, you're going to do your sign-offs, and it'll come right back through to us. We'll certify it and it comes right back to you, where it comes out and it'll actually interface into your contracting SPS system, same as the legacy. There are occasionally some disconnects, usually around patch upgrade times where the two systems stop talking to each other. But again, we usually have open communication between the contracting unit and the comptroller squadron with our chief accountant, usually make sure that we don't miss anything coming down the pikes. And again, at end of year, you're always talking to them on an hourly basis anyway. So what you're saying is you can spend other agencies' funding and vice versa. Yes, that is correct. Granted, it's easy to catch if you're doing your job, then we'll fix it. But yes, you can do that. The argument is you can do that in legacy systems as well. Like I said before, if you've kind of Forrest Gump your way along and inadvertently tap the right numbers, you can tag someone else's money. I've had it happen to me before where I got charged $500,000 for C5 parts in the Pacific when I was working in Germany. So it can happen. It's a little easier. It can happen a little easier with DEAMS just because the drop-down menus make it so easy. So we usually tell the guys to go slow and make sure they grab what they're looking for. Again, have a plan, stick to the plan. Again, I don't have any schedule of when DEAMS will be making it to Mountain Home Air Force Base. That's all handled by the SAF FMP shop. I'll be more than happy to get that for you guys in July when I head out that way, but as of right now, I can't tell you what that is. What can installations do beforehand to implement DEAMS? To be prepared to implement DEAMS? Training. Do the CBTs, play in the sandbox a little bit. I would recommend you have a very strong spending plan and know what your position is with your status of funds before you cross over. Up to this point, most of the bases that have crossed over have done it in October, right at the beginning of the fiscal year. But as we progress, we're springing on new bases right now for AMC that are implementing in the middle of the fiscal year. So knowing your position before you cross over and going forward is essential to know where you're at. But again, like I said, I would have some folks in there. You need some alpha users, basically. So I would find some tech-savvy people and some of your more experienced people and get them playing in the sandbox. Again, when the implementation date for you guys comes up, you really want to start playing in there and getting ready. They'll give you plenty of lead time before they show up to do the DEAMS crossover. Once you get to go, get in there and start practicing in the sandbox. So that way you're proficient at it, and the alpha users can then help the other users get better as they go along. Can the batch processing be corrected? Yeah, but it's not fire compliant. So again, it's not a DEAMS thing, it's a fire compliance thing. DEAMS is not, in a nutshell, is DEAMS the new ABSS? The DEAMS is everything. It's your BQ, it's your ABSS, etc. Going down the line, it is your everything. I believe the original presentation I saw is we have about 89 subsystems in finance, and this will eventually chuck it down to about 18. Again, the good news is you don't have to log into like multitudes of different sites, remember passwords and all that. You got your CAT cards, you got DEAMS access, you can pretty much rock and roll. There's still target load sheets to load DA. Yes, there are. Just to reply back to the other one, it also has your IAPS, and eventually your GASR and your CDS will be in there as well. The question was, can you discuss interface between DEAMS and contracting systems, and are there any major issues? Like I said before, it works fairly smoothly. It's usually around patch upgrade times when they're implementing fixes to identified concerns. that you'll see that they're, every now and again, they'll get bumped off the system, and that's usually just because the languages aren't talking to each other, and the communication, or the ones and zeros aren't lining up in the comm side. Yeah, occasional cross checks and whatnot. They may not see the document coming in to the procurement systems. Again, constant communication, old school, picking up the phone, talking to somebody. If contracting doesn't see something in a couple of days and they normally get business every day, that's a big indicator that something may not be quite right. Yeah, again, are there any pre-training requirements? Again, we showed them on the slide, and we emailed them out earlier. We can do that again as well. That is, from all the training that's out there, that's what we came up with as the basic get out of the door, get moving kind of training that you need to have to get going. DEAMS has a plethora of training on things that you probably never ever want to know about, but those are the basics to get you going. Yeah, the FM distributed learning is another great source. You have to use let's see. Yes, if you're, you will have to, you don't give up your legacy. That's, hopefully I didn't gloss over that too much. For Scott, they converted all of our prior year data, so we've been completely on DEAMS. Everyone else gets to kind of walk into the pool from the kiddie zone. So you're going to actually use Chris and your legacy systems for your prior year, prior to your cutover. After that cutover, you'll use DEAMS for all your current year going forward. So you'll still have your legacy access, and we'll be using your legacy stuff to close out your prior years going in there. And that, as we transition to like 4 other bases now, that's actually been very helpful getting them to move along. And again, it kind of helps you ease into the transition. And you don't lose a lot of your old data. So you will have to remember how to use both sides for a while, but in about 5 years you'll cycle out of the legacy systems completely as those years cancel out. Is there a list of those systems that will not be replaced by DEAMS? Again, that's another great question. Staff FMP shop should be able to provide that for you. I don't have it at this time, but we'll take a note and see if we can't get that for you. You still have to build skeleton records for the next fiscal year. Yeah. No, you do not have to build skeleton records. Will 1081s and JVs be processed in DEAMS? Yes. Is there somewhere I can contact to find the schedule for when DEAMS will be implemented at each installation? Yes, there is. Staff FMP guys have it. Again, we'll take a note and I'll see if I can't get them to turn that loose. But do remember, it does change a little bit. You know, again, funding and whatnot, and getting the systems going. Everyone's typing like crazy. Will interfund bills be processed in DEAMS? Yeah, should be. Will you get email notifications like you did with ABSS, or will you have to constantly go in and refresh and check for documents? You will get email notifications. When processing documents in DEAMS, will a separate 4009 be required for each object class? No. Are object class numbers permanent, or do they change every year? They're more or less permanent through the Air Force data dictionary. Yes, we did send out the training list. Yes, we did send out the training class list to the hosts. I'm not sure if they've sent it out or posted it somewhere yet, but we'll make sure that they do that again after this DCO, so that way you guys can see the training. Is DEAMS web-based? Yes, it is, which is another nice feature of DEAMS, again, which allows you to work from home. You mentioned no TOA, just direct and reimbursement. In order to determine your bottom line, we'll need to combine the two, and why the separation, or what's the benefit? Can you explain in more detail? Yeah, it's basically, it keeps the direct money on the direct side, and then for the reimbursables, you're being paid the reimbursable funding to perform a task. This goes right to fire compliance, and now you can account specifically for what you're spending those reimbursable dollars on, which if you're the deliverer of the funds, you kind of like to know what you're paying for. And again, on the receiver side, it allows us to accurately track what we're doing. Is it a little bit more of a pain? Yes. TOA is a lot easier. You can just throw it all in one pot and go. However, it's not very fire compliant. And again, especially here at Scott, where you have so many major tenants, they do like to know what they're paying for. This allows us the ability to do that quite easily. Really, we just kind of run a direct line and a reimbursable line, and we balance each. What are you doing about multi-year funds and know-your funds with legacy records? Multi-year funds are in DEAMS. I'm assuming you're referring to something that happened that you started in legacy and then moved forward into DEAMS. Yeah, once in legacy, stay in legacy, and finish it out that way. Is there a reimbursement challenge? Are there reimbursement challenges in DEAMS? Reimbursement challenges in DEAMS are pretty much that you have to do each one separately. On the direct side and the reimbursable side, DEAMS is separate, and using Chris to view your status of funds on the reimbursable side doesn't work. You really have to use DEAMS reports to figure out where your status of funds are on the reimbursable side. We run into that issue with the Airport Civil Engineering Center on a couple of occasions with our 31 OACO band that we have here. That's a good point that he brings up. As more and more bases get onto DEAMS, you really have to make sure that your headquarters is using DEAMS as well. So, as this is a mostly civil engineering community, I would say that the CE Center really needs to have some folks on DEAMS, so that way you can see what we're doing. Again, the feeds across to Chris are not always that often, so you need to make sure that they're using DEAMS and they start talking in the DEAMS language. For example, we get funding documents and they reference EECS all the time, and we're like, well, what object class do you want? So, and again, that's just as it matures, and as people start using it, they're going to have to get in there. Just because the base is on it, sometimes we forget about the headquarters folks, and they need to be on there too, and need the training as well. So, if you know your base is coming, you need to start talking to your headquarters and your CE Center and make sure that they're using it as well. Will DEAMS, we got time for a couple more questions. Will DEAMS replace FM Suite? The answer to that question is no. They are not compatible with each other at the moment. So, we are producing FY15 planning, Form 9s, and ABSS, and we implement DEAMS on 1 October, but we have to re-input the Form 9s into DEAMS on 1 October. No, this is what I was talking about with the slow progression into DEAMS. We recommend that if you do your planning documents in ABSS, go ahead and execute them, and then what you'll do that first year is your 4009s, your travel, all that other stuff, any new procurement that you're going to have to do would then be done through the DEAMS system starting 1 October. And then that way you get out the gate clean and you get yourself moving. Up here, okay. Can or will DEAMS replace DTS? No. Speaking of DTS, it's important to know that DTS can only auto-feed one system at a time. The rest go through by others. So as more people are on legacy than DEAMS at the moment, DTS auto-feeds to the legacy side, and then DFS will buy others your travel vouchers. For the FMers that are on here in the community, that's very important for you because your goo is going to explode. So you're going to do have a DEAMS walkthrough documents and training aids on how to manage the goo in DEAMS, so you can kind of clear what's been paid versus what hasn't been cleared yet. I think when we first did the transition, our goo was at about 16%, and the metric's less than 5. So we've got a good process, we've got a good handle. We work with AMC and of course FFMP to get that information out to the new bases, and we keep it down below 4% since then. So it's important just to kind of know that it's coming, know that some of your metrics like voucher balancing and whatnot could get out of whack in a hurry. Again, there are training aids. I will say this in closing here. Use the people that have gone before you. Again, we've been on it for years now. You've got Dover, Grand Forks, Little Rock, Pope, McConnell. We're all here. We're on the global. If you got a question, email it out. We may have seen it or done it, or someone may have seen something like it. So that way you don't have to keep reinventing the wheel all the time. We got plenty of them in stock here on the shelf, so we're happy to ship them out. Or again, you may find something completely new that no one's ever heard of before. Between all of us, we can kind of spitball it together. So again, for those questions that we didn't get answered, and I apologize, there's a lot of back and forth chatter on the box here, not just questions. So it's a little hard picking out all of them. So if I miss one, I apologize. And I believe the hosts, if they have one that we didn't get to, they can shoot it to me, or you can shoot it to them. I'll be more than happy to get you what we can do for you.
Yeah, Major Wagner, Roger Vick here. We'd just like to, I know as we're coming to a close here, key on a couple of things you said. One is please send your remaining questions to the A7CR training box, and we'll get the answers back to the folks. Thanks to the many folks who have joined us and the questions that were rigorously offered, and special thanks to you and your team out there for offering DEAMS training on behalf of all of us here in DC who put these training sessions on. Instructors like you are hard to come by, and we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to participate with us today. So many thanks, and we'll be talking with you soon.
Sir, not a problem. Happy to do it. And again, DEAMS experiences are a little different from base to base depending on the complexity. So again, you feel free to find a base like you and call out and tag them, and we'll help you out any way we can.
Again, thanks so much, and we are out here, and thanks everyone who joined.